Good morning. You're going to have to bear with me. I've got an awesome sore throat, the tail end of a fun cold here.
But we're glad to have you back.
It's good to be back. We're welcome to Prepper Talk Radio, formerly PrepperCon Radio, on the refreshened K-Talk Media. That's K-Talk is no longer. It's we've got a new site. It's ktalkmedia.com. Check it out. We've got all the news, weather. We've got some good news coming up on there. We've got some constant updates, and check out our app. Download that app so you can listen to us anywhere you go. But tune in now. It's ktalkmedia.com.
Listen live right there on the homepage.
So if you're at the office, just connect on your laptop, your desktop, whatever you've got. Click the button. If you guys want to join in the conversation today, you can at 801-254-5855. We've got a great show. And as always, brought to you by Survival Medical. Tougher than nature. And they're just about ready to launch. Huge. Mm-hmm. They're starting in Sam's Club tomorrow up in Logan. So all of you Loganites, anyone up in the Logan area, Cache Valley area, head over to Sam's Club. Check out Survival Medical. And if you're nowhere near there, go to survival-medical.com. Man, these things are pretty much life-proof. I mean, they're waterproof. They're sealed so that in a way with technology that they can actually get a good 20 years out of those. I got hand gestures going on over here, and I'm like, what the heck's going on?
I don't know what's going on.
You can get a good 20 years out of your life,
charades.
out of your survival kit, out of your medical kit. So
hi to the camera there.
Hey.
I forgot it was up there while I was doing my hand and arm signals.
So we got Jeff Kirkham from you're from pretty much everywhere. So ReadyMan, and you're also doing Rats Tourniquets. You've also got I guess through ReadyMan you're doing the survival cards, and then you've got. I mean, what else are you working on? Your Battle Box, American Preppers Network.
We've teamed up with Battle Box and
Black Rifle Coffee
and Black Rifle Coffee and
Matt Best.
You know, the biggies though are ReadyMan is certainly where the majority of my attention's focused. ReadyMan, and then also Rats Tourniquet.
Very cool. And also we wanted to mention that next week John will be in. Well, I don't know if he'll be in studio, but he'll be on the phone with us. We're going to talk more about first aid like we did last week, and so we're going to get more detailed into first aid kits, and then Survival Medical will be in the Sam's Club in Salt Lake. I don't know along the Wasatch Front, but in Salt Lake starting next Thursday as well. So
very cool.
Yeah. So they've got a whole new display. They've got a commercial I've been helping review for them every few days. They do a new cut, and they're like, what's this one like? What do you think? And I'm like, it's cool.
Yes, cool stuff. You will see the PrepperCon Forerunner Evader in at least one of them.
There you go. And I'm actually selling the PrepperCon F-150.
Oh, are you? Okay.
I've got to upgrade. I need a diesel. I can't tow everything I need to tow for the shows. We've got our Hurricane Simulator that I've got to tow.
I was going to say your Hurricane Simulator is about the size of a Conex box.
It is.
It's
a 20-foot
It's a 20-foot Conex box, and total weight on that thing's probably about 8,000 pounds with the engine and everything in there.
Plus your trailer.
Well, and I got to find a trailer to throw it on.
Mm-hmm.
So I need a diesel. Yep. So anyone out there have a good deal on a diesel?
Dodge, preferably? Is that what you're looking for?
You know, Dodge has got problems. The ball joints. Every truck's got problems, right?
Yeah.
And it's just finding the one that has the least amount of problems. Anything that you guys have, if you've got a solution for me, email me at info@preppercon.com. I'm looking for any.
This is going to take over the conversation today, Scott.
Any
you do
good
realize
truck
that,
out
right?
there.
The Ford guys, the Chevy guys, the Dodge guys are going to call in and
I've got a Ford
take
now.
over the show.
I love and hate my Ford, but I've had a Dodge which I loved and hated. We won't go any more deep into what truck to buy, but yeah, I'll be putting that one on the market here soon. It's been fun, but I got to get a bigger truck. I just can't tow 12,000, 13,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Up a hill
efficiently at all.
Yeah, not with my F-150. So today we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk survival mindset, situational awareness. Now Jeff's got a fun and interesting background. He's got a lot of good experience in this, and so that's one of the reasons we wanted to have him on this week and really get into it. So let's kind of just jump into it.
Yeah, I think the way I would envision this conversation going is, I believe there's phases to everything. We start with our natural instinct of fight, flight, or freeze. I think that's where everything kind of starts from, and then we start to learn about survival and the survival mindset, and then from there it maybe even progresses a little bit, and maybe I'd love to hear your comments on this, into the prepping mindset, which is for me kind of an advanced everyday. So you're talking about your natural instincts, you're talking about a survival mindset, so maybe a unique opportunity, unique instance where you're in a survival situation, and then the everyday mindset.
So you're kind of classifying prepping as more of the, okay, this happens, I've got plan A, plan B, plan C. Mm-hmm. Like I've got a higher level of thought process. Is that what you're saying right there?
Well, I think not necessarily higher level, but an everyday process rather than in a survival situation. You have to kind of break into that. Okay, now I'm in a survival situation. What do I do? Okay, you break into that mindset. Whereas a prepping mindset is something you work on every day. So I think there's a distinction in there.
In preparation of upcoming possible bad events, and that's where we like to tell folks is the more we can incorporate that survival mindset into our everyday lives,
exactly,
the better off we're going to be later on when we have an emergency situation that's come up. So, for example, it just simply is part of our kidnap awareness is situational awareness. So the more that we can be situationally aware in our day-to-day lives, just doing simple games. So, taking a second, don't get your nose out of the phone that you're so used to, and looking around and smelling the roses, so to speak, is one of those things that helps keep you from getting surprised, that leads to an emergency situation. All of a sudden the boogeyman jumps out and you're on the ropes, scared, is a lot more higher chance of happening if you've got your nose in your phone and not paying attention versus,
right.
And we like to say, don't be paranoid, but be prepared. So that means you're situationally aware, and that transgresses over even to, the preparedness mindset. Whereas if you're preparing, all of a sudden, if there is an emergency situation, the shock of that situation isn't nearly what it would be if you're going through life with, thinking that the world is rivers of chocolate and gumdrop dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like my example last week of the car crash. I stumbled on the car crash. I was completely frozen, had no idea what I was doing. But if you had that mindset of survival, of preparedness, you're always working on it. It's at your forefront every single day.
Yeah, you've got an action plan. We've actually got a caller on line 3. Let's bring him on. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air with Prepper Talk Radio.
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment what you were saying. When I went to first aid class, I was watching the video about how people freeze in emergency situations. I thought that was complete and total bunk. And not more than 3 days later, my brother and I were in a grocery store, and in the deli shop, one of the deep-fry cookers, the pressure cooker, exploded on a girl, splattering 350-degree grease on her. And I looked over, saw it, and I couldn't believe it, but everybody was standing there in absolute shock. Mm-hmm. Before I knew it, my brother and I were running over there, stopping short, evaluating the situation, and then giving out directions. You, get a mop. You, get a chair. You, get some cold towels. Let's get her set down, and putting people to work in that situation, and probably saved her from third-degree burns. But it is amazing how in an emergency situation, people will absolutely freeze, and knowing how to direct that and having the situational awareness to be able to realize exactly what to do is critical.
Absolutely.
And I didn't believe it.
Yeah, and most people don't. And one of the things I've seen a lot more now than ever, people don't just freeze, but some people won't take any initiative, won't even take instruction.
They refuse to do anything.
They'd rather pull out their camera and record it than get in and help. People are more interested in what am I going to post to my social media than I am how am I going to help this person.
Well, I think that's one of those things. If you look at the way that the brain works, especially under stress, you think of your brain kind of like a filing cabinet. And you go through that filing cabinet where you can find similar or the same thing that has happened every time. And real quickly, you'll go through and you'll go, okay, this has happened before. I know this is how I reacted in the past. But then all of a sudden, like a pressure kettle going off, exploding, and splashing somebody with hot oil that is life-threatening, where in your filing cabinet of life does that exist? Unless you've been through training or some type of similar training. So just like what our caller in was saying is, you noticed that him and his brother had just gone through training where they talked about the stress response. So immediately they knew, hey, I've got to get in there. I've got to take control, which is why leadership is so incredibly important in an emergency situation. And then I'm betting that part of their first aid training was burns, and so they got in there and they knew what to do. So we've got to get in there. We've got to get off our butts, get off the couch, and learn new things and get those skills up. In the military has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to figure out how to ward off post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD.
Yep.
And so, overwhelmingly, the answer is training. Good training is the best armor against PTSD.
So that was going to be my next question for you is, how do you develop this survival mindset?
The best way to do it is seek out knowledge.
Okay.
Seek out the knowledge. The more you know, the more you have that filing cabinet in your brain that you can reach back and go over it. And remember, any learning that we have is perishable. So we're either getting smarter or we're getting dumber. We've got to be vigilant in all things, whether that's politics, whether that's religion, or whether that's the survival stuff that we're talking about now. We've got to constantly seek out that knowledge and be vigilant.
And it's very simple. I mean, the funniest thing is, okay, now I'm an assistant scoutmaster now. I haven't been with the Boy Scouts in years. I've been helping with the Venture Scouts, which are the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and it's high adventure stuff, right? And these, the little 12 and 13-year-olds, we're doing a Court of Honor last week, and the week before that we're going through and just going over the Scout Oath, the Scout Law, and it's coming back to me real quick, but these kids, none of them know it. And I'm like, you've been in scouting for a year, how do you not know this? They just don't focus on it enough. So then I started looking at what do I know and what do I remember, and I realized I have a huge gap in my knot tying, and that's embarrassing because my brother listens to this and he's an expert rigging technician, and so he's like, he's gonna just destroy me later this week when we see each other, but he's just gonna destroy me because I don't remember all the knots, the basics.
But he's crazy knots.
Yeah,
knowledge. He's insanity.
My brother is
knots.
to knot tying and rigging as Jeff as you are to guns.
Maybe even more so.
It's ridiculous.
But you know what? One of the best ways to learn a skill is go take a class, and even if it's a basic class, go home and teach it to somebody else.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's why we do all the different things we do, is so that we can go in and learn and then teach.
Yeah, absolutely.
And bring in teachers who actually know how to teach.
Yeah, every time we prep for a show, it's always a great opportunity for me to say, okay, this is a great refresher course, to get ready again for a show. So absolutely, even if you think you know it, you dig back in and they come right to your mind again.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things you were talking about, how the government's found the best thing to help with PTSD is more training.
Is
right?
training, tough, realistic training.
So not just book learning, but actually practicing in the field. It's actual training rather than just
absolutely.
It's
cognitive
wisdom,
and
it's
tactile.
knowledge.
So you're actually doing something.
Because you're actually, when you're doing something, and now all of a sudden you're essentially spinning up all of the senses. So all of a sudden, we can do rote memorization out of a book and then just vomit that back out. But then being able to actually apply that within scenarios that have different little variations in there, that's true mastery, and that's the ability to say, okay, I learned this and I practiced this when it was sunny outside, but now that it's raining and cold, it's really not that different. It's just a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're really excited to have you here. This is fun. If you guys want to join in the conversation, we're heading into a break here in just a few minutes, but. Tune in on the app. Get here on the phone. We're brought to you by Survival Medical. Survival Medical has a first aid kit for everyone's needs, and is the only first aid kit that is tough for the nature. It's opening up right now in Sam's Club tomorrow in Logan,
Sure.
and then next week in Salt Lake. So check them out. Survival-medical.com. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio, brought to you by Survival Medical. Check them out at Sam's Club tomorrow in Logan and next week in Salt Lake City. Guys, remember, this is the toughest, longest-lasting first aid kit. This is what I carry in my car, in my go bag, my bug-out bag, 72-hour kit, whatever you want to call it. That's my main kit. And then I have other ancillary products, most of them provided by Survival Medical.
Yeah, and like you say, you go through your kit every 6 months or so, and take things out and go and renew different products and so forth. And This one, you just it's still there.
Yeah.
What else do you need to do?
This is actually the month I renew my kit. So every 6 months. It's usually April, September, October is my other time, but it's usually by the first weekend in October. I've adjusted my kit, going back to winter gear, putting in the things that make sense for cold weather survival. I obviously don't need a down coat in the middle of the summer, for most situations. But if I'm up in the Uintas, it's good to have one of those in the car in case
at least a
something
warm
happens.
layer of some sort.
A couple wool blankets, some Mylar. It'll get you through it. But make sure you've got in your basic bag whatever you choose to put with you wherever you go, your everyday carry or just something under the seat in the car. Rotate those. A lot of times people don't even think about their water or their food, that they need to rotate that because there are expiration dates.
That's a great video we actually did on ReadyMan. We're doing a series on EDC. And so one of those videos a few weeks back was vehicular EDC.
Nice.
What you should always have in your vehicle. And then we talk about ours was summer centric because we're in the middle of the summer, and then we're gearing up here in about another month. What we'll say, okay, now it's winter. Here's the EDC items that we have for wintertime.
Yeah, I don't just consider EDC what you have on your person. I consider anything in my bag that I have here.
Absolutely.
The other bags I have in my vehicle. Yep. For me, that's everyday carry stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have like jumper cables is a vehicular EDC thing that obviously you're not carrying around on your body, but always a smart thing to have, stowed away in the vehicle.
Yeah. And even one of the fun products I saw this last weekend at the Utah Prepare Expo, it's a small, tiny little jumper box, and it's seriously no bigger than your phones are about the same size. It's you guys with the Samsung Galaxies, so about twice that thick. It's a jumper box, and it has two little cords that come off of it, and they go about 18 inches, and they clip onto your car, and it'll jump your car. And I'm like, seriously?
Just enough high output to get that thing going, huh?
Yeah, and if you're not using it for that, it's got a port you can actually plug in and charge your phones.
So the question of all questions, was it solar? Could you, if you were
It was
stuck
not
out
solar.
in the
It did have a solar connector that you could
have an input.
plug into a solar.
Yeah.
The guy that was selling it had solar products as well, but he's like, yeah, this is a standalone battery. I can plug it out, charge it off my solar.
That'd be cool. So you're stuck out in the, you're stuck out in East Jabib, and then all of a sudden your motor won't start, and you like anybody else has done, you go
Yep.
And then at least you've got a chance to recharge that thing up and try again in another hour or something.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty phenomenal. I'm like, wow, that's actually really cool. A lot of the products I see don't really change the game much, right? There's a lot of mimicking and a lot of
trying to do a little bit better, a little different, a little spin on it. Just
we've got a little bit more grip on this product than last year's product. This has a little sharper of an edge, or this has one more tool instead of just 184 tools on your Swiss Army knife. Now you're 185. This is changing. And so every once in a while I see a product like that, and I'm just like, wow, that's really cool. That's something I would get. And so that falls into play with just situational awareness. What makes sense for you to have on your person, in your car, in your home, and what are you practicing with? Because if you're not practicing with what you're going to be using, then you're not practicing correctly.
And that all comes back to your mindset. So when you're going out with your family to an event, say, okay, where's your mind? Are you thinking, oh, this is going to be a fun game, and I'm going to go buy some popcorn, we're going to get some food, and we're going to have a lot of fun? Or are you thinking, okay, what if something happens? How am I going to protect my family? How are we going to exit this building? It's absolutely mindset. And that's, where I'm talking about kind of the prepping mindset is even more than just a survival mindset, because that's obviously not a survival situation at that point, but it's a mindset. You need to train yourself.
I think one leads into the other. Like the
exactly.
prepping mindset precedes the survival mindset. Make sure that you're prepared, and part of that when we're talking about avoiding PTSD is training, which is obviously, is the exercise of preparing, and then the actual survival mindset. Okay. Now you're in it. You're cold. It's dark. You're hungry. You're scared.
Yep.
You're very uncomfortable. A whole different mindset that you're easy. It's a lot easier to put up with that uncomfortable situation if you were prepared. Just simply by your training, knowing that it's not a deep dark hole that you're falling into, but knowing, hey, you know what, it's only X amount of time, and I'm going to be out of this, and it's going to be okay.
You guys are giving me flashbacks to my New York trip. My wife and I wanted to go to a Yankees ball game. She's a big Yankees fan, and I'm partial to the Angels. So it was interesting. We go, and it was Yankees versus Sox, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But man, preparing myself mentally for the
to deal with the crowds.
the crowds didn't make me nervous at all. It was the transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And what if the transportation failed between point A and point B?
Mm-hmm.
How many different subway lines take you in different directions blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole trip, like we're planning, okay, we're going to get to New York this day, we're going to ride the train in, we'll go do all these things this day, and then we'll ride the train out, and then ride the train in the next day and do all these things. You've got to do this subway to this subway to that subway to this subway. And by the third day, I had it figured out. But for those first 2 days, man, I was in stress mode the whole time because
you were
it
unsure.
was so foreign to
was
me,
unsure.
right?
So you know that a compass still works underground, correct? Take a map.
Doesn't matter because if you don't know which way the trains are going to get to where you need to go, it doesn't matter if you know where north is or not. And I knew where north was. That was easy.
Mm.
But the problem wasn't directions. It was routes. This one you got to then change to that one, then you got to change to this one.
So you're feeling some anxiety.
So it's just such a busy city
and
that it's easy to not.
Overwhelmingly, though, I mean, I think you're hitting it. Overwhelmingly on the survival mindset is you're continuing to find a solution for the problem that you're in. You're not just throwing your hands up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And over and over again, that's one of the main tenets that you learn when you go to SEER school, survival, evasion, resistance, escape, in the military. Is when you're, God forbid you ever get captured and you're held by somebody. The idea is you continue to keep your brain active. Mm-hmm. So you'd hear stories of the guys in Vietnam that were held in the Hanoi Hilton. Everybody kept their mind active, whether that was ways that they could surreptitiously resist their captors, the North Vietnamese, or there was one guy that he made a game of memorizing everybody's that he came in contact. He made a game of memorizing their social security numbers, which was invaluable information later on when he was released. There was another guy that was held, and he built his dream mansion every day. And so all of these guys talk about what a tremendous resource that was, because they kept their minds active in this very severe survival situation, so that they could both mentally, because remember, survival is both, it's physical, it's emotional, and it's mental, and so you've got to keep all of those things in check and keep that good moral altitude going forward, morale altitude going forward to get you out of those situations.
So here's my question is okay, the natural instinct that we have is either fight, flight, or freeze. Why do some people freeze? Why do some people fight? I mean, has that been determined?
Well, I think you're touching on, so just like you've got the preparedness mindset leading into the survival mindset. On the edge of the survival mindset, right as you're transgressing into that survival mindset, is the stress response. Okay. It's the oh no, I'm in a bad situation. What do I do? And so that's that stressful response. Do I run, do I fight, or do I just sit there and freeze and throw my hands in the air and let happen what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. And as we pass through that, whereas the situation becomes, okay, I'm here, the stress is still relevant, but it's not necessarily the stress response where you find yourself in the survival situation. Okay, now what am I going to do? And that's where we reach back and we draw on our training or past experiences to help us continue to get through.
So if I understand correctly, most people without training or without some knowledge will freeze.
Will freeze because they simply don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they'll just walk around in circles or crawl up into a ball and essentially die at the base of a tree because they don't know what to do. They have no idea. At the back recesses of their brain somewhere, somebody told them, hey, if you get lost, stay put and we'll find you. But never mind the fact that it's raining and it's cold and it's dark and then all of a sudden your body's using up a lot more energy than it normally would, and and hypothermia sets in.
And I think that's interesting. Looking at just the scouts that we have in the last camp out we went on, one scout didn't have a sleeping bag. Another scout had two. But the one that didn't have a sleeping bag's like, oh, I'll just curl up next to this rock. And I'm like, okay, that rock's cold.
Have you done this before?
The ground's cold. Those are going to pull your heat. You're going to be struggling to stay warm. And he's like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, there's a pine tree. Grab all the low boughs, get all the small twigs, put that down as a bed. That'll keep you warmer. And then we found out the other kid had a sleeping bag. I'm like, okay, now get that sleeping bag and use that one. But at first we're like, come on, kid, use your brain.
Exactly.
You know,
use your brain.
You're a first-class scout, which means you've done some wilderness survival. You've done some camping. You know how to warm up. What are you going to do? And he just, because he was getting cold and weak and didn't know what to do, you know, right off the bat, he couldn't think critically of how do I come up with a solution. And I think that's the point that we're trying to make is you start off with just surviving, right? First is that flight, freeze. Then you get into survival, which is solve the current problem. And then there's prepping, which is expanding on and solving the next problem, being prepared for that problem, right?
And I think too, you know, it goes back to the whole education aspect. You know, the mountain once summited is always easier to do again for the next person. You know, when the first guy to climb Mount Everest, everybody's like, whoa, we didn't think it was possible that you could go that high because there were so many myths associated. You're going to die or you're going to float off into outer space or whatever that ridiculousness was. And now people summit Everest pretty regularly, albeit still a very, very dangerous mountain. Yeah. But, you know, there are several great books that are out there that are books on survival of people subsisting. Heck, the movie that just came out, The Revenant, was about Hugh Glass, loosely based on Hugh Glass, who essentially crawled 200 miles back to, you know, to be rescued after he'd been mauled by a bear.
200 miles.
And it was 200 miles through, you know, and undoubtedly he had some Indians that helped him along the way and stuff. But even still, got mauled by a bear, left by his comrades to die, and then essentially is like, no, I'm not going to die. I'm going to persevere and crawl through. There's another great one. A movie came out about it that was loosely based on it called The Long Walk, about five or six individuals that literally walked out of a Siberian prison post-World War II and walked across Siberia, across the Himalayas, and down into India, where they were later found by a British patrol. And, I mean, tremendous story of survival.
How many miles?
Thousands.
Thousands of miles.
Thousands
That's inconceivable.
Thousands of miles.
Now, I'm going to do a 50-miler in 20 hours at the end of the month.
Nice. Good for you. We just on our live feed talked about that. Yeah, absolutely. You know, a great way to prep and tell yourself, because again, the mountain once summited is easier to duplicate. So if you've already walked 50 miles, then all of a sudden it's like you've learned those lessons. And I'll tell you, you look at most of your ultrathon runners, they're not young, spry guys.
True. Yeah.
They're older. They're people in their middle age, in their
runners.
40s and stuff. That tells you it's a mental game.
It's a mental game. It's the you know, the younger guys haven't necessarily, like you say, have the experience or have the stamina. They have the quick bursts of energy, but us older guys, man, we got the stamina, and that's where we can push through the pain. We've got the experience that way,
because we know, hey, this hurts. It hurts, but it's not an inry. I can keep going,
and it's temporary. I mean, we did we hiked Mount Whitney. Oh man, it's been like 6.5 years now, and to prep for that, we did a bunch of smaller peaks. I was living in Southern California at the time, and we did a lot of 6,000 and 7,000 foot elevation peaks. And those are small. Those are tiny. I grew up in Colorado. There was 14ers everywhere.
There's 50 plus 14ers.
You know, and I've done longs. I've done pikes, and those were tough. I mean, those were tough. I moved to California. I'm doing all these little ones. I'm like, these aren't that hard. Why are we doing these? Like, I could just go running or do something else to prep. And then we went to do Mount Whitney. We did it in a day. We summited in a day and down. And that was, I think it was 19 and a half hours straight hiking up and down.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Long day.
You know, and you really learn what you're made of doing an elevation change that fast, up and down. And it was probably one of the coolest experiences, because it took everything that I'd done in Scouts when I was a kid, took everything that I'd done on those preparation hikes, and compressed it in such a small time frame that you had to be quicker to respond. Oh, I'm starting to feel heat there in my foot. That's going to turn into a blister. Let's hurry and throw some moleskin on there now before it becomes a problem. And I got done. I lost 2 toenails on my front toes from the hike down, just because it's so steep and you're going quick. I just rubbed the toenail right out of my out of my toe.
And it's the perfect experience to begin to get the idea of what a survival situation is like.
Exactly. But I didn't run out of food. I didn't run out of water. I didn't run out of resources. I had some scrapes and some bumps and some bruises at the end of the event. But now I can go back and say, wow, I was at the tallest peak in the lower 48, and the view from up there was outstanding. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
But not everybody can say they've done something like that. And there's other things people do that you've got to prepare for, you've got to work towards. And then once you do it, wow, I can do it again.
Take the next step from there. Exactly.
And that's what we like to tell folks, at least on ReadyMan, and I'm sure I'm echoing exactly what you're saying, is, hey, get your butt off the couch and get outside and do stuff. Because the reality is, one, it prepares you for a bad scenario, like an emergency situation. But really what it does is you start enjoying life more. You're learning new things. You're getting off the couch. You're getting outside with your family. You're doing activities. You're learning new things and building that confidence, and the morale just goes through the roof. I mean, get off the couch, get outside, learn new things. And it's okay if you're not good at it. It's okay if, it's the first time you weld, it turns into a molten mess of garbage on the floor. That's okay. Because later on, when you've made up your own desk or chair or something, you've got a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. We've got another segment coming after this. Survival-medical.com. Check them out. If you're in Logan area, make sure you hit them up next couple of days, because they'll be up there in Sam's Club. This is the only medical kit tougher than nature, and they just happen to be our sponsor. We love them. So thanks for tuning in to Prepper Talk Radio. We'll be right back after a message from our other sponsors. Hey, welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio, brought to you by Survival Medical. Survival Medical has the first aid kit for everyone's needs, and is the only first aid kit that is tougher than nature. Check them out. They're in the Utah Sam's Clubs starting tomorrow in Logan, or you can check them out online, survival-medical.com.
And, of course, don't forget about the new K-Talk Media website.
Yes.
It is more than radio now. It is media. So check that out.
And one of the fun things I love about K-Talk, and this is why we're broadcasting here, is this is the only news outlet that's not bought in Utah. It's independent. So you're going to hear a lot of different opinions, a lot of different points of view on the different types of news that broadcast from here. And oftentimes we do break quite a few cool stories. So tune in every day, listen to all the different shows. I mean, we've got Inside the News first thing in the morning. We've got Liberty Lineup right after us. And then we've got Disrupt Up Radio this afternoon. And one of my favorites, stand-up commentary every night with Jake. Jake's hilarious. Gives a totally different spin to the news and to what's going on in the world.
Makes me shake my head most of the time. Like, what are you talking about?
A lot of laughing, shaking of heads, and some good information in there as well. He brings on some pretty impressive guests. But K-Talk's got a lot of fun stuff going on. Today we've got Jeff Kirkham here with ReadyMan, so if people want to find out more about what you guys do, where do they go?
A great place to find out about ReadyMan is just hit our Facebook page. We've got gobs of free videos that are on there that we've posted. We go live every Thursday that's free, and then for our members, we go live every Monday where we talk about subjects and whatnot. And it's all video content of us showing tutorials and stuff. And then if we were able to sync the hook with you there, then go to readyman.com. And we've got over 120 videos behind the paywall. We have members, and it's learning skills. We do a lot of web-based instructional, and then also we do live instructional stuff, all based off of for emergency preparedness.
Jeff's voice is very soothing. I think it's really, and if you like what he's saying today, you will love these live videos they do. They're really top notch.
Fantastic. We had a caller while we were on break. They asked, okay, well, what if we're stuck in the woods? Where can we learn now? Things like snares. Mm-hmm. And top of my head, it was like, okay, ReadyMan's got videos on that, but then also our good buddy Dan Whiting does training on that.
Yep.
Does he still do his
Live
classes?
Life Survival? Yeah,
LiveSurvival.com. Now, do you guys do training classes as well?
We do. Yeah, a lot of we're focused heavily on the instructional via video, but we do live training as well. As a matter of fact, we just brought in a new addition to ReadyMan. His name's Tyler White, and he is a bushcraft expert.
I know Tyler, yeah.
And so he is he's one of those guys that can actually start a fire rubbing two sticks together which for me has always been very elusive and never happened, and I resort back to my trusty old lighter.
Yep.
But he can make it happen. He's a wellspring of information, and we actually just shot our first live video with Tyler that we were going over Battle Box's fishing box that just came out.
Nice.
And we were doing short
I saw part of that,
tutorials on all the parts that was in there. It was really cool video.
Cool.
Very cool. And don't forget YouTube. It's like the Matrix. You can just get on there and download instant information, and
There's a lot of good information, and there's a lot of crap
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, you got
have to weed through a lot.
Kind of swim through the ocean to find those gems.
Yeah. So if you hop on our Facebook page, we'll post some of those later today. It's easy to find us, Prepper Talk Radio. So we'll share some of the stuff you've got in your open network and
Fantastic.
get that
Thanks
out there.
much.
But yeah, there's a lot of different things you can learn. There's a lot of different resources to learn. That's one of our focuses as Prepper Talk Radio and the Prepared Guy and PrepperCon. Like, our goal is to bring all the instructors to you, bring you all the resources to help you be better prepared for whatever life throws at you. And there's certain things that you'll subscribe to that you'll be like, yeah, that's for me. That's what I want. And there's going to be other things you're going to like, yeah, I don't care about that. That's fine. You need to find what you want, what you're going to actually do, and stick to those things, because that's going to be what ultimately takes care of you in the future.
That's why we're such big advocates at ReadyMan is to have a community. Surround yourself with a bunch of like-minded people if possible, because nobody is just like Tyler. I mean, that guy can start a fire, I think, with laser beams coming out of his eyes at some point, because he can like he was demonstrating flint and steel to me, like old school flint and steel, and he was doing it and starting fires like literally it looked like the movies where it's almost effortless, but it's garbage, but really he's sitting here in front of me and doing it, and he's like, no, it's really easy, and he's showing me how to do it, and I did a great job of breaking the flint. So but he definitely complements the other side. So you need that community, because not everybody can be 100% in all skills.
And the whole lone wolf theory, right? People think, I can do it all myself, I don't need help. That's what we're trying to help you debunk right now as you're listening. Being able to survive 100% on your own, not going to happen.
Not for very long, anyway.
Tough game. Even the mountain men had rendezvous where they would go back in, and then they'd get up there and they would trade with the Indian tribes and stuff, because they'd starve to death if they did.
Yeah. Well, you have to have that network. And that's what we're really trying to do, is help build that network of resources, skills, and more importantly, friendship and community. Because that's what you want to be doing. If things go to pot, well, I shouldn't say if. When things go to pot and you're stuck in a bad situation, whether it's, end of the world as we know it, or end of my job and my whole life's changing, you want to have that transitional group that's there to support you and to help you. And that's what community's all about, because if we're not rebuilding for a purpose and getting back up on top, then there's really no point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really what it all comes back down to.
And it really, it gives you purpose, even if you're serving the other people in your community. Again, it goes back to that survival mindset. You've got to have purpose when you're in an emergency situation. And so now all of a sudden, maybe that purpose is simply helping somebody else out of a worse situation than what you're in.
Absolutely, when you have your own family to take care of. I mean, right there, that motivation is undeniable.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself, you can get by, you can limp by, but when you've got responsibility, that's something completely different.
Well, it's like I tell my wife all the time. If she ever dies or leaves me, I'm getting a loincloth and moving into the mountains, and that's it. No more community.
That is
no
a
more
horrible
society.
visual. That was,
I know.
That was.
You should have seen me when I was in shape. It wouldn't have been as bad.
That was horrible.
But no, I tell her, I'm like, if that happens, I'm going full mountain man. I'm going into the woods. I'm like,
there's no reason not to at that point, right?
I know. It's like, well, what else do I have to live for?
I'm getting a shipping container. I'm moving to the middle of nowhere. I'm going to live in that shipping container.
I'm going old school.
You're going to build a shelter.
Dig out a tree. I'm going to dig out the inside of a tree.
Dig out a hole.
Just like my side of the mountain.
Sorry, I'll do the shipping container thing, or I'll get a Vital Dome and live in a Vital Dome.
In fact, what's funny is we've got a guy that just bought a Vital Dome last weekend. I do some consulting work for them.
Those things are cool.
They're awesome. So we've got a guy that's buying one to live in Coeur d'Alene, living it year round.
Oh wow!
We've got one guy that won one last year at PrepperCon, and his intent is they've now moved to Alaska, but their intent was to live in one year round. They're like, yeah, we're going to get a yurt Then we saw this dome. We're like, yeah, we need a dome.
Mm-hmm.
And then we won it. What? So they were stoked because they won a dome. And I mean, you don't need a whole lot of space. You know, if you're going to go completely off-grid, you don't need a lot of space. But, man, these things, 425 square feet of space. You can put it up in about 4 hours.
14 feet high. You got to do
It'll
a second
take-
floor up in there.
Yeah, we have one guy that actually put up a trampoline. He hung it with chains and then put straps underneath it, and that's where all the kids sleep. It's like a giant hammock up in the loft area because they're 14
can
feet
you
tall.
hang stuff off of the? Is it structurally sound enough that you can hang stuff off the I don't know, the dome?
So anywhere the joints are,
Yeah.
you can hang things off the joints. The joints are the strongest points, and we use steel so that it has flex. So it'll take over 120 mile an hour crosswinds. It'll hold 3 tons of snow load, or 3 tons of load off the joints. So if you've got that load weight distributed inside, you can load them up.
I mean, could I hang a chain from one of the joints and do pull-ups?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I can I just grab the joints and I pull off a couple pull-ups, and that's about all I can do.
Wow.
But
what's one of those things? What do they run?
So they're running around $5,000 for the base model. It's a single door. You can get a 3-door, and then you can add features on it. Like we've got a passive solar window that'll increase your temperature from up to 70 degrees out from what's outside.
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
And they'll have sales
Have
on
to
them
check
as
that
well.
out.
Yeah, and right now we're actually ending our sale tomorrow that we started last weekend, but it's half off the base package. So you can get a dome starting at $24.95. And to get those, you got to go to journeytents.com, JOURNEYTENTS.com.
And is that the 14-foot diameter one?
It's
14
24
foot high. It's
14
24
feet
foot.
tall, 24 feet wide. And that's the only dome they sell. And then they also have the tent lines now, which are made out of the same material. So it's a polyvinyl exterior, meaning it's not going to mold. It's not going to mildew. You can put it away wet, pull it out years later, and you're still going to be fine.
If you've seen the Real Stadium, that's the same fabric covering the stadium seats.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what that
So
is.
it's a 25-year no-maintenance fabric. It's an engineered
Wow.
architectural
Wow.
fabric, and we're the only one in the tent industry using that.
And how long does it take to put up?
About 4 hours to do the dome. It takes about 20 minutes to put up any of their wall tents. And I actually bought 3 of their wall tents. They're awesome. You
That
know,
needs some.
they're huge. They're sweet. So I love them. Check them out. JourneyTents.com. And we should go camp and let you see it.
Yeah,
Test it
yeah,
out.
I'd like to check it out.
You guys would probably blow your minds. It's awesome.
Yeah, I like the dome. I've always been interested in the monolithic domes.
Absolutely, I love
concrete.
Absolutely love monolithic domes.
Yeah.
So we've got a guy that actually took one of these. Speaking of survival mindset, he's living in Libya. Doing a... Is it Libya? No, not Libya.
Somewhere over there in the Middle East.
Somewhere in the Middle East.
Better have a survival mindset if he's.
Oh yeah, it's not Libya. I don't know why I'm thinking Libya. But he's basically taken all these kids that were their families were killed and they were orphaned and they left the country, and he's helping them bring them back into whatever country he's in. And he's created an orphanage and he's got a school that he's created, and he's using our dome as his base building for everything. So he's put up the dome and then he sheets the dome and then he puts gunite.
Sprays it with gunite.
sprays it
Like
with
a
gunite.
dome, a monolithic dome.
And then he makes his own monolithic dome, and then he takes the dome down inside of it and goes sets it up again, and then creates another one.
Wow.
As
And
a
he's-
form.
And he's using that as a form. So he's built 2 of them already. But he's taking his family. They lived here locally in Utah, and they moved out there. He's got, I think his oldest is like 18. And he's just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be helping these kids. And so my whole family's bought in. We're doing this.
Wow.
And so we actually donated a dome to him to help him out. But it's amazing what you can do with that structure. That geodesic and monolithic domes, it's
One of the
the
strongest
most
shapes in nature.
resilient,
Absolutely.
most resilient structure you can get because you've got triangles and spheres, and those are the 2 strongest shapes.
And cylinders. Yeah.
So it blows my mind. I love these things.
Well, in our last few minutes, I guess, here, I wanted to talk a little bit about fear and how that plays into the survival mindset, because sometimes you feel that fear and then you completely shut down. It's kind of the fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is definitely a reaction to fear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we like to say in Special Forces, survival is an acronym that they have, but and one of those is conquer fear. You have to be able to conquer your fear, because if you don't, and it takes over your mind, then essentially you just sit there and wait for the worst to happen, and you're not doing anything. You're not actively trying to avoid it and trying to actively make a better situation out of the one that you're in. So yeah, absolutely you must conquer fear.
So by conquering fear, I mean, obviously requires knowledge. I mean, knowledge and experience and training as well to overcome that fear. How can we recognize panic versus fear versus anxiety?
Well,
you know
I think they're all part of the same sliding scale
Okay.
that's there. You know, it's like the definition of courage is somebody that
Okay.
does something that's right, does the
Just
right
in
thing,
spite of-
even though they're scared and they're afraid. And so what we're not trying to say is, of course you're going to be scared. When you're scared in the dark, it's a difficult situation. But what you've got to do is be able to do the right thing for you, for your survival, your family. You do the right thing anyways, even though it may be a little bit more uncomfortable, or even though it may make you question what's going on. If you know it's the right thing, that is the way to conquer fear. And absolutely goes clear back to what we were talking about on the beginning of the show of prepping. The single biggest thing that you can do to increase your survival and to push fear down and control fear is training. Get out there, learn, so that even if you've done something in the bright daylight when it was nice and sunny around your family and you're having a good time, now all of a sudden when it's in a bad situation, you can still take
No
that
difference.
experience and
Yeah.
do it.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Jeff, thanks so much for being with us today. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. This is Prepper Talk Radio. The key takeaway today, training. Go get training, make it a family fun event, and go learn a new skill. Today's show has been brought to you by Survival Medical, the only first aid kit that's tougher than nature.